What's up? What's up? What is up? It's another week, another Friday, another opportunity to get together and record the Ball Hog Sports Talk. It's your boy in the building. We got the whole crew in the building. You see what it is. Just ho, ho, ho. In a good way, baby. I am festive in the spirit, in the giving spirit, and we're going to give you another phenomenal show. Today's episode is going by the title of National Signing. And if you have been a part of the Ball Hog Sports Talk, you know we take our titles pretty serious. So we'll tell you why here in a bit. But for now, just rest assured, it's going to be another great show, another great Friday. So do what you need to do. Like, comment, tag a friend, share, do whatever you need to do, subscribe. But make sure you do not miss this episode. We're getting closer to Christmas, y'all. It's the Ball Hog Sports Talk in the building. We coming to you, and let's go.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Cause this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B Brown, ESQ, aka the Ball Hog, aka the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're gonna give it to you rough, rugged, and raw. So come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, in the building. I got my ugly sweater on. I got my Christmas hat on. I see the fellas in the building looking festive as well. What's up, my mans? My mans and them. We're gonna start in the Central Time Zone. I see the big
Middle
folks.
Coast. Middle Coast.
Middle Coast. You're right. Middle Coast. With Lake Michigan. The coast of Lake Michigan. My man, the myth, the legend, thou who shall be known as, respected as, internationally appreciated as, the Big Flow Show is in the building.
Man, what's good? Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. It's pink. No, y'all don't know about that. It might be culturally.
You don't know nothing about that,
exclusive.
Man. They too young.
So this, just so y'all, this is not PJs, man. This is a sweatshirt. I know he said, look, I got a PJ. They do look. It's so cold in Chicago. It's 7 degrees below zero now, and I'm looking forward to a high of -4. So I had to bundle up. I had to get a little red on. I didn't have a hat, Christmas hat. I had an ugly sweater last year. I think my wife threw it away because I couldn't find it this year. So
it must be real ugly. Then.
It must have been real ugly stuff. I thought it was kind of hot. She must have heard me say I thought it was hot because I can't find it. But anyway, Merry Christmas, y'all.
Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Then we're going to move over to the Eastern time zone where it sounds like we're going to get the weather from the, what is it called, Middle Coast? You guys are going to fax your weather to us by tonight. It's going to get real cold. You know who he is, the man who likes to represent the Beantown, Boston himself, but lives a little closer to New York City. Thou who shall be known as ETP Ellis, the producers in the building. What's up, my brother?
Doing well. Good morning. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all the goodness.
When does Kwanzaa start?
Kwanzaa, don't forget Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa hasn't,
Kwanzaa hasn't started yet, right?
I have a love-hate relationship with Kwanzaa, but fine. Happy Kwanzaa to those that observe and celebrate.
For the rest of us, is that y'all my little friends reference?
Festivus.
Or is that Seinfeld? One of them dudes. One of them shows that was on when Martin was on. But go ahead.
Yes, I remember that. I think it was Seinfeld. I don't remember.
Festivus for the rest of us.
We digress into this because today's episode, National Signing. And we did National Signing because there's a few things that are coming through sports, business, entertainment this week that all have to do about like this national landscape. The national signing, we saw it over the last several weeks in terms of what nation were you representing as you watched the World Cup. There was a national signing. You saw everybody through their clothes and through the flags. Everyone was giving off the indication of who they represented. And it came down to two wonderful, wonderful teams. It came down to Argentina and France. It came down to Messi and Mbappe. And it came down to what is going to go down as, in our lifetime, it's got to be the best World Cup ever in our lifetime. right? I mean, I haven't watched several of them, I must admit. We're going to get into that. But then this week, we also had national signing in terms of a lot of high school players deciding where to go next. And while they weren't the national flags of Argentina and France, they were ripe with a bunch of pageantry when it came to which hat you decided to wear. It used to be simple. Now you got this whole hat trick thing. And some people didn't even know that the kids were going to go to a different school until they realized that the kid was going to a different school. So we're going to talk about National Signing Day. But sports, business, and entertainment, whether it be at the heart of the World Cup, whether it be at the heart of NIL and how young men decided what school to go to, sports, business, and entertainment is on full display this week. National signing. Let's hop in. I think we got to start with the World Cup because it was an instant classic. While National Signing Day was important to a lot of college programs, and we know that the college football line item pays for a lot of scholarships, pales in comparison to the World Cup. The World Cup, I must say, because I'm one of those people that during the World Cup on the final Sunday, I was doing training and I was trying my hardest not to get lulled into watching this sport that I know nothing about. And then, France was getting handled rather. Argentina was up 2-0, and I'm hearing it's boring. And then all of a sudden, there's this flurry of text going back and forth in some of my group texts. And I was like, wait, what's going on here? And I tuned in. But I wasn't the only one that tuned in. The Fox broadcast had on average 26 million people tuned into the World Cup. So people watched it. I'll just start as broadly as possible. What did you guys think about it? It was a classic matchup. I think Messi got the proverbial elephant off his was it get off your back? The monkey off
your back.
You got the monkey off his back and finally got the World Cup vindication and victory that was the only thing that he was missing. It was like the LeBron waiting on the championship. That was the only thing that Messi was missing was a World Cup championship, and he won that. And a great final match. Came down to penalty kicks like a lot of them do. I think that takes away from the sport, but hey, I'm not a purist of the sport. It was still an exciting, amazing World Cup final. What did you guys think about it? Did you tune in? Were you a part of the 26 million that the Fox broadcast lured into watching a game that hasn't really taken off in terms of our comparison to the international audience? Soccer hasn't been that here, but 26 million tuned in, 10 a.m. Eastern kickoff time. That's not even a word, probably. What they say when they started on the pitch, whatever they call it. But 26 million. Were you guys a part of 26 million? What did you think about Mbappe versus Messi? What did you think about France versus Argentina? What say you?
I was part of 26 million. I don't think I started watching until the second half, but you don't miss anything if you do that because there's so much scoreless soccer. But it was a great match. I thought it was fantastic. I thought Mbappe definitely is taking over the torch. I've always had
three goals.
Yeah, it looked pretty good, but 3 goals and a loss is like, you know what I mean? It's like we're rushing for 200 yards and y'all lose. It's like, okay, we can't even talk about it, right? So I thought it was cool. I thought, I've been a little critical of critical strong. I've been a little questioning of Messi. It's like, everyone says he's the best ever, and I'm not a true soccer fan. I do watch it, big games and big matches whenever they come on, but I feel like you can watch a game Argentina and not realize that you just watched the best player ever on the
That's
field.
Wild.
I think
that is wild. A wild statement, but a true statement. You don't even realize that you're watching the best when you're seeing it.
But
unless you really know what you're watching, because you did see Messi do some things, and I'm like,
in this game he did. In this game he kind of stepped up. He said, did he have a hat trick too, or he only had 2?
He had 2.
He had 2
and an assist.
He had an assist, and his assist was sweet. Those were, but he looked good in this game. He looked really good. But I've watched Argentina. I had him picked, just so y'all know, I picked them to win the championship from the start. I knew my soccer, man, so I picked them from the beginning. They messed up some stuff, but it was supposed to be them against Croatia, but one of them finished off in their pool, so they got messed up that semifinal. But I picked it anyhow. I think that was a great game. I think we watched some good soccer. I think even someone like myself who is not a soccer purist, you could really enjoy the game.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Same here. And I'll ask our audience, did anybody watch soccer that normally doesn't watch soccer? Did they convert you to become a soccer fan? Because watching that World Cup final, I gotta admit that I feel as though I have missed out. I've missed out on some amazing sport, right? Because if you think of, and this is national signing, if you think of the environment that we saw there, and I know it's World Cup, that's like Super Bowl times a million when it comes to just these are nations, right? The national signing, everyone is showing their support and their fervor for the team, so it's hard to compare to like a sport like football. But I felt as though watching it that I've been missing out. The electricity in that crowd, the fact that the game could change like that. What was a boring game turned into the most epic World Cup final in our lifetime. And I got to say that I didn't give that sport enough credit that a game could turn that quickly and become that exciting. So I challenge
Before
our
you go
audience
to
members
ETP.
always to like, comment, share, but please weigh in. Like, has soccer, did this World Cup final convert you into a soccer purist? Or not a purist, but into at least a person that will watch soccer again? Because I know I will. I got to admit that Mbappe and Messi, Mbappe being the young future generation of soccer, Messi being now, goated and given that crown as the best ever by some, not all. It has me it got me roped in. It pulled me in. ETP, did you watch it? Were you part of the 26 million? What did you think? I know of the three of us, I would probably give you the designation as the most soccer knowledge amongst the three of us. So what did you think about it as someone who has watched soccer in the past? And you even told us that we'd be missing out by not watching it. What did you think about the match?
So the first half was probably the most boring World Cup final I had ever watched. And then the second half became the most exciting World Cup final I have ever watched. So the first half, there was we talked about it last week. There was a talk about illness going around with the French team and if they were going to be able to be, able to perform. They looked super sluggish, in the first half. And Argentina, even after they scored 2 goals, looked like they were, at the point where they were, down 2 because they were playing with so much aggression. And then obviously, France is a powerhouse, and Mbappe is, he's the fastest by far. He's one of the most skilled. He's, he imposed his will. So the fact that you could have went and, got a bathroom break in the second half or a cup of coffee or what have you, and come back and it's, it's basically 2-2 at that point. It's exciting. It was a great game. It was, fortunately, all of the talk about changing the dates and all of this stuff, everything about the negativity around the World Cup went out the window because the match ended up being essentially the greatest that we've ever seen. But France should have, changed Big Flo's citizenship so that he could have qualified and helped them kick those penalty kicks.
I was just going to ask you about that. If you was disappointed. It's funny. I was going to ask you that disappoint you, because I wouldn't have missed that kick. In no way in the world. I missed a goal? Come on.
So yeah, it's just weird that it comes down to the greatest match that we've seen, and it still ended in essentially defended free throws, according to Big Flo thinking that he could have scored all 5 in a row.
You shoot a free throw and there's a dude standing at the bottom of the circle like these, trying to make you say no,
trying to distract you. I would say this, because every time we had fun with it, every time there was a goal, ETP would say that there was another Big Flo scored every time there's a PK.
Big Flo!
Big Flo.
The first time you did it, I didn't know. I was like, "What is it?" Oh, I know what he's talking about.
That was. Hey, I was crying laughing. And by watching it, I have to say this: I have confirmed that indeed, by watching that game, Big Flo, you are out of your damn mind. Ain't no way you would score a PK.
I can't believe you keep saying that to me. Why?
Can you kick a field goal? Have you kicked a field goal?
Can we at least agree it's way harder to kick a field goal than to kick a penalty kick?
I'm just asking if you've ever
never
kicked
tried,
a field
but
goal.
I've kicked a soccer ball. I've done a corner kick and had it go in the goal before. I used to be sweet.
What year are we talking? Just give me like era, like decade.
So you hooked it into the goal.
Was it in the 90s?
Neon colors was real popular.
The fact that you think you have that much muscle memory, that something that you did in the 80s.
Hold on. I'm Haitian. Our foot comes a certain way.
Wait, hold on. So but you're saying you kicked you scored a corner kick, you scored a goal from the corner?
But in the 80s, ETP,
I mean, it's impressive. Like, I'm not saying you've converted me, but I mean, that's a respectful thing.
I'm Haitian, man. Our foot come a certain way. It can touch the ball a certain way. Look, all you gotta do, come out there. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do a ball hog sports talk Olympics. You're gonna dunk the ball, and I'm gonna try to score a goal on you.
I would absolutely say that's not going to look. I'll try to dunk the ball, but I don't know, man. After watching them, there's a lot more skill to soccer than I gave it credit for. Let me just go ahead and say that. So I apologize to anyone that I ever made think that soccer wasn't like that, because what this World Cup has shown me that it's absolutely like that. When it comes to the skill, when it comes to their stamina, them dudes ran basically a freaking marathon out there. And to see, there was a one of the French players late in the game that they substituted, but he was just in like fully exhausted. And to know that they still have to play at such a high level and continue to run, I think it was like the 91st minute when I thought that Messi had won it, and then somehow, some way, France comes back, and it was a handball that was anything. I guess it was an elbow, but that is considered a handball that created a PK that then took us to the overtime. It was a string of emotions back and forth that I never thought that soccer could do for me. And I see my girl Michelle Steele. What's up, Michelle? She says, I am converted. It was like Jordan versus Kobe type of match. And it was that. Let's be honest. It was Jordan versus Kobe. It was Jordan in his late prime versus Kobe in his young prime. And we got to see two of the best that probably will ever do it. We got to see them do it in a classic matchup. And so on this episode of National Signing, I don't care if you were rooting for Argentina, if you were rooting for France, we all got our money's worth. And I think the sport of soccer won. If it translates to American athletes deciding to choose soccer over other sports, to be determined. But at least Americans dialed in. If you look at the average of 26 million from the Fox broadcast, it said that there was something lightning about the moment that we captured as a country that I hope will translate into more athletes playing soccer. Now, if I had to choose, just because of the soccer scholarships or lack thereof on the collegiate level, if I had to choose, I'd say, I'd suggest or push someone into lacrosse over soccer. But lacrosse has nothing on soccer when you think of the nations that supported this World Cup and how people went out in droves and watched. Billions of people watched over the entire globe. Billions of people watched. You would never find billions of people to watch lacrosse. So there's something there, but there's also something missing when it comes to the translation in America. And I guess I don't know what that is. I don't know if either one of you can opine on what you think it is, but there's still something missing, because if you reconcile that with National Signing Day on the college football frontier, it's night and day when we think of soccer and football here in this country. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why
I would say, I think a big reason is it's not as profitable for the networks to generate revenue when there's no commercials. There's no stoppage, right? And so you have to watch 45 to 50 minutes and there's no advertising. The advertising is limited. They can do the overlays and things of that nature and little graphics.
They've been trying to do that.
But historically, you watch a football game, you're seeing at least 45 minutes of advertising, right? Like in the course of that game. In a soccer match, you get halftime. And that's it. Pre-game, halftime, post-game.
Where they get the soccer players make more bread than any sport, don't they?
They have a lot of sponsorship.
The media deals, because it's globally distributed. Like you're not watching an NFL game in every country in the world. Like there was, they were showing, the people in India and countries in Africa and everywhere watching Manchester United, right? Like they have these media deals that are insane. And then because of the media deal, the sponsorships come. So you have the beer companies and apparel companies and all of this that are spending all this money to be the official sponsor because of the media distribution that's getting to, pass through the entire world versus us in the United States.
To ETP's point, it's globally distributed, but what they do inside the stadiums is a lot different than what we do, right? In the sense that you won't see ads plastered all over the place in any NFL stadium. Strategically placed, yes, but plastered, no, you wouldn't see that. Whereas in soccer, because they don't have as much stoppage time, you'll see these stadiums are, just a hodgepodge of advertisements across around the field.
On the skirt,
now digitally on
basketball
the field.
does that a little bit. Yeah,
I was going to basketball is just
more.
as inundated with advertising too. I mean, you go to Madison Square
and
Garden,
they're the ones that started off
everywhere.
putting it on the jerseys and stuff. I'm sorry,
on the jerseys, right?
They started that off.
Yeah.
But you say like, why is it so popular? I think if you look at from a sports standpoint, and hear me out, it's the easiest sport to just put together and play, right? Like,
I'm glad you say "hear me out" because I was
whenever you say
hear me out. Yeah, because I don't think soccer is the easy sport. It's the hardest sport of any sport to score. But from a standpoint that, like,
not for you though, not for you, but for most.
Well, penalty kick, I'm pretty much an expert. So I've realized after talking to you guys that I have a skill set that not everyone else has. So I have to appreciate sometimes you're just gifted. I'm sorry. I apologize for just kind of minimizing.
You're a humble genius, sir.
I forgot about that. So anyway, but like you can just go in the yard and put two things next to each other, call the goal and kick the ball and just try to play, right? You don't have to have like field goal. You don't have to have a hoop. You don't have to have bats and bases. You don't have to have a lacrosse stick. There's a lot of stuff. So from that level, every country in the world has what it takes to at least just recreationally try to play the sport. And I think that's what makes it so easy for it to spread because, a lot of people in other countries, like I would love to watch football. I've never played it. And there's so much going on in football and so much more of a complex sport that you can't even figure it out. And I think that, same goes for baseball and same goes for a lot of different things like that. So from that standpoint, I think that's what makes soccer so popular. Is everyone can do it in this country, and our best athletes never play.
But stateside, I concur. I think that's a great assessment. But then I ask you, and ETP addressed it, so I put it back on you and say, then why stateside? First of all, I got to ask, like, if the ball explodes, do you get more than one goal? Because my man thinks that if you kick it, that's messed up, Crit. He said the ball going to explode if you kick it.
I'm not going to take that as offense. I'm going to take that as a compliment. He understands greatness and strengths when he sees it. So, Crit, I appreciate that. I'm not going to let them flip that into an insult.
That's another compliment. He sees your genius.
He sees my genius.
But I ask you this. I throw it back to you and say, then why stateside has it not translated? Because if it is that easy.
Because we have the other sports. If we didn't have the other sports, a lot of places just don't have any. If you go to some of these African nations or whatever, you might have one that does a little cricket, one that does this, one that does that, whatever. But like everyone has soccer there, and that's their biggest thing. Our best athletes don't play soccer, period. They don't. And the ones that are really good, they go to Europe and play it. And they're playing on that, they're doing that stuff. But like in general, the Deion Sanders, the Barry Sanders of the world, the Bo Jacksons of the world, the Randy Mosses, all these dudes that you can think of as our most elite athletes, the Reggie Florimas out there, they don't play the sport. And so therefore we not compete on a national level. And in USA, if we're not the best, nobody cares, right? We have to be the best.
I ask you guys in my cross-examination voice, just a simple yes or no. Do you see a future, a generation where that's different, where maybe our kids, because of the international attraction that soccer is, and the billions of people that watched the World Cup, and when it's all said and done, several hundred millions of dollars that people like, Ronaldo and Messi are going to make in the sport. Do you see a future where that would be different, where soccer would be maybe not number one, because, American football is indeed that from a national standpoint. It's something that is as American pie, but maybe number two, maybe number three, in that top three. Do you see a future generation where that could be true here in America? I'll start with you on that, ETP. Do you think it's possible? Obviously not in our generation, not in our kids' generation, but maybe our kids' kids or their grandkids. Do you see that as a possibility?
I see it increasing in popularity. I mean, the U.S. men's team was back in they made it to the knockout round this year. They may improve over time, but even watching them play when they played against the Netherlands, you could see just the disparity in skill level. Like they just were not at a level that these European, or other countries are in terms of the quality of play, individual play. It may increase. I mean, I also see over the years, I mean, the NBA is on its way. It's essentially starting to become a globally consumed sport. It's becoming
Absolutely.
and growing at a level where I don't know that football is what it is in the United States. Basketball is continuing to grow globally. I just don't know that there's space for soccer. What's that?
We're somewhat losing our grip on that now that it's doing that.
On basketball?
I mean, the best basketball players in the world, a lot of them are foreign born because those countries are starting to make their best players. Although I don't know what other sport the Joker was going to play besides hoop, but like their best players are going there. So
yeah, that's got a height component to it. Do you think that offsets the rest of the country? Because if they're watering down their top athletes are now going to basketball versus soccer, I mean, maybe we gain by someone else's subtraction in terms of getting their top athletes into soccer. Maybe that's how we catch up with the rest of the world. What do you think, Big Flo Show?
How many
again, I'm thinking 2 generations from now
are not bigs or not tall, not really tall. Like
Say
Ginobili
again.
wasn't. You think about foreign-born basketball players that are like on the elite level. How many of them are like, they don't have any John Morants coming over here that are not superhuman.
Steve Nash,
Ricky Rubio, but I mean,
okay,
obviously,
so yeah, and then we have a couple that are short. So yeah, we are getting some guys there. I don't know that there's going to be enough of a dent because basketball just doesn't have enough people and enough teams and doing it. But they already have their international leagues. But I think soccer has spoken in those countries. To answer Jay Chris, first of all, proofreading and spell check is never overrated. But I'm just gonna let you go with that, Jay Crit. But unless you misspell soccer, but we're just gonna keep going.
That's the Haitian way of spelling it.
That's the Haitian way. You need to accent aigu over the e. Soccer. But I think that the head injuries it's one of those things that I think there was an attack on football. There's more concussions in soccer than there is in football every year.
Yeah.
Period. So I don't think that's the case. We're a capitalist society. We're born a capitalist. This 0-0 mess, we can't do it. We're not going to be able to do that. Someone has to win. Someone has to lose. So if they ever change the rules of soccer and get rid of the offsides or do something else that can increase the scoring, it might pick up. But we are not sitting out there all day long to watch 0-0. We're not doing it.
Fair.
We're not going to do it.
You Neanderthals.
There's not enough Reggie Farimas to kick penalty kicks to make it exciting at the end.
I think what you're basically saying is from a national signing, our signs are we just Neanderthals. Like that was our biggest concern, that there was no beer served at the World Cup. Our biggest concern is there's not enough scoring. We just Neanderthals, man. We need to get our weight up. Our etiquette needs to be a little better. And then maybe we can sophisticate to the point where soccer is indeed one of our top 3. But to watch the rest of the world wave their flags, wear their colors, and you look at Argentina's parade. Like we've seen Super Bowl and World Championship parades. We never seen 5 million people take over a doggone highway. That was next level. Like if you had to pee, you basically say I gotta pee on myself. There's no, I gotta have a bottle with me. There's no way you can get out of that. The players had to get airlifted. Someone unfortunately died, but to watch it, the sheer number, one of the fans died. Yeah, but 5 million people, like in one spot, of course someone died. Someone had to die. The fact that there's only one person is to me a great thing. But I would love the day, and I don't know if I'll live to see it, to see the United States have that much enthusiasm about that game, because I have to admit, I am now converted. I will watch more soccer because of that World Cup finale. Let's take a very brief moment and have a moment of silence, man, because not to be Debbie Downer, but to pay our respects. Ronnie Hillman, the young running back who played in Super Bowl 50, lost a battle to a very rare cancer, and he died at 31. And in the same week, another running back who is known for the immaculate reception and known for way more than that, a Pittsburgh Steelers legend and an NFL legend, a Hall of Famer, Franco Harris, died at the age of 72, also lost a battle to cancer. So let's take a brief moment of silence. We know that the Steeler Nation is hurting, the Bronco Nation is hurting, but more importantly, those families are grieving right now. So like we do when it comes to some of our sports figures, let's take a very brief moment of silence for two souls that will be moving on to the afterlife. Franco Harris was that dude, bro. Like straight up, not only on the field, but he was like the Billy D, the first Billy D of commercials, and people really looked up to him, man. So you look at some of the posts throughout the week, people are really hurting, thinking about Franco Harris dying at 72 years young. But what a heck of an NFL career he had and post NFL career he had. Let's hop into National Signing Day.
I just gotta say, but before you do, I just saying that he was like the Billy D. You know, I've been told I look like Franco Harris, so I appreciate the compliment.
You do kind of look like Franco Harris. I don't know about Billy D. Billy D is more of a vibe than a look. It's more like, you know what I mean, the way you talk.
Well, hey, listen, if you're in the category, you don't have to look like Billy D.
Franco Harris without all the swag. That's
he's
Billy D free.
Franco Harris light. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh man, let's hop into National Signing Day, man, because this was the week that a lot of college football programs look forward to. This is early signing day. There'll be another signing day in February. If you get lost, don't worry about it. I do too. Who's on first? Who's on second? But this is the earlier of the two national signing days, and this one had its own ranking. Notre Dame went from ranked like top 4, top 5 down to number 7 because of a particular young man. The safety, he was the number 1 safety. I think he was in the top 10 overall, whatever, position agnostic. He was like one of the top 10. Peyton Bowen, I think his name is. Is that right? Did I get the name right?
That's correct.
So Peyton Bowen was applauded among Notre Dame folk, and Big Flo Show and I are part of one of our group chats with former players. And he was applauded because he was purportedly offered $2 million in NIL money and decided to turn it down because he was going to stay true to his commitment to Notre Dame. Turns out that he absolutely was not going to stay true to his commitment to Notre Dame. And maybe he was just using it as bargaining because he went from telling Notre Dame that on, days before signing day to initially choosing an Oregon hat and all the pageantry that comes with National Signing Day, to now, a day later, deciding that he's going to go to Oklahoma and sending out an apology and saying she would have handled it better. And so I say this because even before money was involved, it was always tough, right? Your head coach in high school would tell you to make sure you communicate with, you accept the offer, make sure it's still there before you tell everyone else that you're not going to go there. There was a timing mechanism that you had to kind of figure out at 18 years old that was a challenge. There was a communication mechanism that you had to figure out at 18 years old that was a challenge. There was a professionalism aspect to it that you had to figure out that at 18-year-old was a challenge. All of those things were challenges before you added money to the equation. And now I think the challenge has been exponentially made bigger on these 17 to 18-year-old kids. And we see it played out in the ugliest ways. And a story like Peyton Bowen is going to be more of the norm than the exception. And so I hope the young man does very good things at Oklahoma. I'm not one of those people that's going to hate on him. At the end of the day, to be the number 1 rated safety coming out and have that many people chasing you and willing to pay $2 million to get you from an NIL standpoint means you've done something right. You've done something right. So I applaud what he's done. I applaud or I send good vibes and hope that he has a great career. But that's going to become the norm. And think that the NCAA, in skirting its responsibilities and coming up with some regulation as to what NIL looked like and how it played out, is culpable here. I don't want to blame these young men. I don't want to blame the families that $2 million is going to change your life. But I do want to say this ain't what I thought we would be talking about when it comes to National Signing Day. It's getting ugly quick. And it's more free agency than anything else. And so we're going to talk about the results of National Signing Day, but I wanted to leave with that and see if you guys had any thoughts about the pageantry now and the changing of the hats. And now you're committing, based on whether or not someone can give you more NIL money, and football doesn't last forever. So I say that now and open it up to you guys. What did you think about it? And while it's about Mr. Bowen and his family and his decision, it's really not. It's about what it represents. And this representation, I think, is going to become the norm in this new NIL universe. What say you guys? I'll start with you on this one, Big Flow Show.
First of all, I'll say this. ND is my alma mater. Love to see them get good players. But for $2 million, man, I don't know what school I would not say, sorry, I'll see you next time for $2 million. Like, that's real money. That's change your life money. That's, if done well, can turn into some sort of a generational money. You know what I mean? If you think about the fact that he's going to have no expenses for the next 4 years, if he just takes that money, I don't know if the $2 million is $500,000 a year or $2 million up front, but let's just say however it is, you invest that money, you've changed your life structure forever. Even if you go pro, it's still something that you got this money now. So you got to go chase the money. So
I don't think anyone would disagree with you, but it says something that on Monday you said, hey, I got these offers, but I'm going to stay true to my word. On Tuesday, and I'm saying Monday, Tuesday, just to make the point. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to go to that school. I don't think anyone would disagree with you when it comes to the $2 million and its impact on your life and your family's life. But how it was handled, and again, I don't want to make this just about this young man.
Let me go back
how
to
it
this.
is handled is because now, like, there's these backdoor conversations where it used to be just trying to get you to flip your commitment. Our school and we had a safety go down in bowl practice, and I don't know if he'll ever play again. You should really reconsider. Now it feels more like used car salesman conversations. Saying I found the extra $2 million for you, and I don't know. It just something doesn't seem pure about that.
Let me go back to this because I always make the comparison. We're doing a game that is 85-90% contingent on the players, 10% contingent on the coach. Maybe the percentage is a little off, but we hold these players to much higher standards. So let's go. And I'm picking on Deion not because he's Deion, but because he's the most recent. What did he say a week before he took the Colorado job? In public, I'm happily the coach at JSU, and blah blah blah. I love it. I'm doing whatever. And
yeah, but he made it clear that he would consider other offers. And again,
okay,
I'm not trying.
This
I'm
dude
not
was openly
Deion.
recruited by a lot of people, so he made it clear that he was doing
fair,
whatever.
But I get your point. Coaches do that all the time.
The week before he took the job, he went on TV and said, "I'm happy to be at JSU." What that told Colorado was all those little things we've been negotiating, my salary, dropping the standards for admittance, all that stuff that you getting tough on. Let me let you in the world know I love being at JSU. I'm comfortable being here. This dude, if he were, I have more respect for him if he did it just to run game. He said, hey, I'm going to go to Notre Dame. I don't need the money. I'm going to do whatever. They said, we got to give him enough money that we don't care. Reportedly, these are all rumors, they offered his brother some money. And he's like, all right, I'll come to Oregon. Hey, man, they offered my brother some money. Oklahoma said, well, shit, we'll give him some money too, and we'll do this. All right, cool, I'm coming to Oklahoma. That's fantastic. That's capitalism. That's the best thing ever. We all get mad because everyone has this expectation of a kid that we couldn't recognize in the picture that we've never met before because of some ideal that we have. And this dude just played a me first game that coaches play all of the time. People tell you all the time, they tell the recruits, I'm here for 4 years, I'm never leaving. First chance they get, they leave. But suddenly we want a kid that hasn't already been making a lot of money and hasn't already been doing this stuff as a profession. We wanted to pass it up. Nope, he did exactly. And if he switches again and transfers and makes more bread, God bless him. He's playing the system for the way the system was set up. We have to applaud him.
I look, I can't deny that the capitalism seems to be at the center of it. And you're right, coaches do it all the time. Coaches normally do it through a representative, though, through an advocate where there's an agent doing all the talking. They do it with someone that is doing their PR and making sure from a communication standpoint, it's done in a way that is very professional. My issue with young men being put in, they absolutely do. And
I disagree. They get in
they
front of
go
the
through an
media and they
agent.
get in front of players all the time and say, I ain't going nowhere. I'm here all the time. And then they leave all the time.
You don't think that behind closed doors, there's conversations that we're not privy to with an agent? They all have agents.
Okay. Do you don't think there was how is that different than Bowen? Behind closed doors, there was a conversation about the bread.
You think he had an agent that was negotiating all of this?
So that's kind of that's the piece.
That's kind of irrelevant.
Well, I don't know that it's irrelevant, and that's the question that I have with all of this. Is like, so let's take it back. So one, like, how many pages when you all signed to go to get your scholarship? How many pages was your contract or the agreement?
Like one or two.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Okay. How many lawyers did you have review before you signed?
It was non-negotiable, so it didn't make a difference.
I knew I was going to be a lawyer, so I just reviewed it myself.
Okay, so we got the pro penalty kicker and the 18-year-old Esquire. So, but I guess where I'm stuck is like, now we're talking like real contracts, right? Back when, our generation, there was essentially a letter of intent, which everybody thought that was your contract, right? Like, it was just like, oh, I'm signing a letter of intent, I can't back out of it. It's like, no, that's just a letter of intent. But now we've gotten to a point where they'll sign, like, you could just sign something and it still doesn't even matter. And I'm just curious as to, like, at this stage, how big are these agreements, and are any of these kids, do they have legal counsel? Is there anybody reviewing any of these documents? Like, what is the process now compared to what it was? Because there's so much more money and logistics at stake, but it seems like it's still very Wild West in terms of the way it operates.
There's a supplemental business that a lot of agencies started to get involved in, that is NIL deals. And so I imagine that those agents are talking to some of these young prospects to negotiate on their behalf of the NIL deals. Then, there's some regulation in terms of the NIL collectives at the respective schools, but I don't know. But to be honest with you, when it comes to signing with, in this case, Oregon and then subsequently Oklahoma, I don't have a problem with what he did, to be honest with you. I just think that it's laying a groundwork for a very dangerous landmine situation where young people are put in positions to negotiate on their own behalf. And if you don't have someone, whether it be an agent, whether it be a family member that has the wherewithal to review the contracts, what you think you could be hanging your hat on, taking the $2 million, right? Just for some verbal agreement over the phone, and then making that decision to not go to, in this case, it was Notre Dame, but not go to a fill in the blank with any school that has its own value beyond just football, could end up ultimately backfiring on you. And that's my challenge, is that if you decide to go to this school because someone promised you that you're going to get $2 million and the ink is never dried on that, no one has really put a contract in front of you to let you know how that $2 million is going to be played out. And we're using these Peyton Bowen numbers, but this is so much bigger and more in depth than Peyton Bowen, right? Now you've made a short-sighted decision based on what you thought you were going to get, a number that you've never really analyzed, an agreement that you really never vetted. And whether we want to agree with it or not, your degree in the long term has value, or it doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean,
matters.
You're making an assumption that, like, it was a verbal commitment to this money. I can't imagine a situation, even at 18 years old, where, especially given how much of an asset this person is to whoever's around them, family, business people, or otherwise, being like,
You froze up on us, ETP. I'm just saying it might have been a verbal agreement.
Expression.
He stuck literally right there. I'm just saying it was a verbal agreement because of the back and forth, right? If on Saturday, or the days are wrong, right? So what's today? Today's Friday.
Wednesday was signing day.
On Wednesday, he's going to Oregon. On Thursday, he's going to Oklahoma. I don't know how much time you would have to really sit down and vet the difference between those two things being offered. And
briefcase of money, sign here, take this money. Like,
fair.
So there are lawyers involved. Let me just go back. There are lawyers involved, and they have people who are doing it that are working with the collectives, and the collectives are the group of interested alumni that do they put the money together, and then they sign you to they buy your name. So I'd buy ETP's name, and then I can resell. No different than Shaquille O'Neal selling his name, image, and likeness or whatever. Some of these deals are going to be non-exclusive where you can still make money on the side, which is really bad for the collectives. But long story short, the deals were probably written up and looked at, and he pulled his move and said, all right, I'm going to go to Notre Dame. I want more, and you guys are telling me that I'm not worth the more. He was ready to go there. Let's not act like Notre Dame probably didn't have. They have a collective too. Brady Quinn is involved, in charge of the collective, so they probably had their offers too. They probably keep theirs a little bit more hush hush and tight to the vest. So then the negotiation starts, and Oregon came back and told him, "I'll give you this." And before he had a chance to sign, smart, he said, "I'm gonna sit on this for a day. I'm not gonna sign this thing. What's the rush for me? National Signing Day is good, but I can wait one more day." Oklahoma said, "Give us some time. We'll come back." The negotiations and the paperwork and the documentation had probably already been there.
Yeah,
they just had to tweak the number. You know what I mean? So they had already looked at the terms and everything there. And then you don't need 10 days to review that because you've already been working on that for so long. Right. And then he said, all right, cool. I'm going to go to Oklahoma and get my bread and do whatever. And I got everything.
But even if they didn't, yeah, I mean, even as a comparison, like, Carlos Correa signed a deal with San Francisco Giants, Major League Baseball, $350 million, 13 years, went and took his physical, some medical diagnosis they couldn't agree on. Less than 24 hours, he signs a $315 million deal, 12 years with the New York Mets in less than 24 hours.
And guess what happened in all of that? All communications went through an agent that's been doing this for years. And if we're going to say,
but you're assuming that he doesn't have representation. That's what I don't know.
That's a very bad assumption.
I'm not assuming that he doesn't have representation. What I'm saying is that's now going to be the baseline for these young kids, is that they all need representation. If the NCAA is not going to do what it needs to do and regulate it, then they all need representation, because whether it be $2 million or $20,000, there's a young person, a 17, 18-year-old young man who, even in the 1980s, when Big Flo Show was thinking about going to college, I threw a shot, not the 80s, but close.
Close right? enough that I can't be mad.
Even in your day, it was a decision, a lifelong decision that a young person that is ill-equipped to make is charged with making. You now add a money component to that, and you have put a freaking gasoline bomb in the middle of an existing combustible situation. And that's all I'm saying. So if that's going to be the norm,
we've gone back and forth about this. But we've done we've gone back and forth about this so many. Like, the alternative though is there's a lot of money involved and they don't touch any of it.
Like, fair. I don't think that that's the case. I just think that look, and we've gone back and forth on it, and we've come up with ideas of how the NCAA could have improved. And so we can leave it there. My man, what up, Juan William Jackson? What's up, Dougie? He says his 5-star just signed, and he had an NIL deal. He got to dictate the terms. He's now FSU Seminole, and he is also the player. I thought it was pretty funny. He threw a shot at Travis Hunter, and basically was like, ain't no Travis Hunter here. I'm all in. And Travis Hunter came back and said, boy, you can never be me. And I think that that's funny. I think it is fun. I don't think those two will probably ever play each other, although it would be fun to watch them. And it's good to see someone from Broward County, Stranahan High School, be not only a 5-star kid, but to get his opportunity to go play college football. And while the $2 million is great, man, there's so many more treasures to that opportunity than the $2 million. And I think that what's ultimately going to happen is that that's going to be the lead and the focus, and we're going to forget about the football. And I would hate that.
I have to say this is in respect to, and look, I'm a guy who values high name brand educations. I was at Notre Dame, my son's at Northwestern, so I don't want to act like I don't appreciate that. But sometimes we act, and this is a little elitist and offensive, like if you don't go to a Stanford or Notre Dame or Northwestern or Duke or Vanderbilt, we kind of act as if like the other colleges are just absolutely nothing. So if you go to Oklahoma,
I didn't say that. I would never say
but
that.
it just sounds like the people are like, oh, if you're not going to value the education, Oklahoma, I mean, it's not the best school on earth, but it's, I mean, there's a lot of graduates from Oklahoma that are feeding their family and having good, prosperous careers and doing whatever.
Absolutely do.
And so I think
Absolutely.
like it's
Absolutely.
like there's no education. I'll take the worst school, I'm exaggerating for emphasis, and put it against Harvard. And it's going to take a long time to recoup that $2 million for the average student that's going there. Now, if you're a Harvard caliber student, I would also argue that whatever school you go to, you're going to be the valedictorian of. If it's not Harvard, and you're going to shine, and somebody's going to hire you. I think you're going to be a success. I think Bobby Howard would have been a successful person had he not played at Notre Dame. He played it at FIU. I think you still be a very successful person. I got to give more credit.
I'm not Bobby Howard. I'm Bobby. See,
I wasn't talking about you.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was, but I fucked it up. Excuse me. But but if I take you know what I'm saying, I think you still be a successful person, whether or not you went to other schools that you did.
Fair.
Maybe there are some connections that you have, but $2 million, you can't make that gap up for me.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on the guy taking the $2 million. So I don't want to make it about his story. But I also I'm old enough, I've lived long enough to understand in certain circles, it's not about us acting like anything. There's gonna come a time where someone's going to want to know where you went to school, and where you went to school based on their evaluation mechanism is going to dictate whether or not you move on to the next round. Where you went to school is going to dictate whether or not you have an opportunity to get a foot in the door because of the other people working in that particular firm or that particular institution. Where you went to school, it matters, bro.
Can I downgrade your word from dictate to influence?
Influence, maybe,
okay.
But
dictate.
Let's not pretend as though decisions are made. A lot of decisions are made based on the familiarity of you went to this institution and I went there too. We live in a corporate America now, you and I both, that we understand the impact of those things. We live in a corporate America. You and I both have a sales function that we can walk into a room and we understand that leading with Notre Dame allows us to get to a point in the conversation that we might not be able to get to otherwise. That's a fact. That's a fact.
So yes, but at the same time, we're talking about a level of athlete who could be at Oklahoma or FIU or wherever, where somebody might say, "Oh, right, I saw you play on national television, and I remember you scoring touchdowns." Like that's a different.
It is.
That's like we're not talking apples to apples of like, "Hey, where did you go to school?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I was a starting safety for
yes,
what Bowling Green or whatever it is."
Playing college football itself has its own cachet in those same circles. But what I'm saying is this, because where I thought you were going, I'm glad you didn't. Is like, it's the type of caliber athlete that his prospects to go to the NFL are high. Let's cut the BS out. Every single player that signed in this early signing period to make it to the NFL is a freaking lottery ticket. You are getting right back to zero in terms of the odds against you. I don't care how many stars you had. I don't care what school and what situation you get to. They all are starting at zero in terms of buying a lottery ticket, and the odds are stacked so high against them that they're going to have an NFL career all in one that's going to be meaningful enough that is going to pay them enough money to offset the difference in what could be opportunity.
Right, but that also could be a counterpoint to the $2 million. Basically support the idea of take the $2 million because you don't know that lottery ticket is actually going to come and your numbers that might not hit.
Absolutely.
That's where we all agree.
Absolutely.
We all
and then
agree
pay for yourself to go to Notre Dame. You take some of that $2 million and pay the tuition.
Go pay tuition. Let's hop on over, man.
Right, exactly. Go get your masters. Get your cash money.
I mean, you have a Yale. What's your undergrad, Ellis?
Northeastern.
Okay, which is a good school, but like you have a Yale master's. You're a Yale grad. You get as much love and respect as anybody who went there, undergrad or whatever. You say Yale, you have the same sweatshirt and hat. No one's going to be like, well, you didn't go undergrad. You know what I mean? Right. So you can go by that.
But my point is, it matters, fellas. And these young people, I think, are going to figure it out too late, because when I was young, luckily, my mother was an educator, and she made me recognize how important it was versus the depth chart, versus that coach is going to be there for a certain number of years, versus man, they throw the ball a lot.
But
And
you're,
now
but
you
you're,
add
but
money to
I'm
that.
still gonna, I'm gonna harp on this point. Like, if you are playing for Oklahoma or a Michigan or any of these schools, and you were a contributing player on these teams, that alone is helping you from a networking perspective, from an access perspective. Like, it has nothing to do with the education. It has to do with the fact that, like, people are going to gravitate. Like you said, you've experienced it yourself. Granted, you have the benefit of the confounding factors of Notre Dame is a great academic school. Oh yeah, and also it's like one of the greatest football brands in the history of the game. So like you have a perspective that doesn't divorce the two, but like let's not pretend that whatever school you go to, if you were a contributing athlete, then you're going to have some access and some value in that.
To certain circles. I agree with them 100%.
I agree with you in year one. And you, bro,
no,
I'm
talking about as an alumni or like any of it.
You got to open doors. No, but you know what though? Let's be honest though. I'm 50 years old in a couple months. People like the fact I went to Notre Dame, but they're going to look at my resume more than my college at this point. That's a conversation starter, but they're going to look at this point. That opened the doors when I was young and as I was getting. But as time goes on, it's still a calling card. But they need to find out, hey, you're a sales guy. Have you made your quota? Did you go to President's Club? Whatever. Other than that, at some point you have to stand on your laurels. To what ETP
I bet you don't just put. I bet
but,
you don't.
But where you went to school, if you like where you went to school, if your resume is disjointed and it doesn't live up to what school you went to, what school you went to isn't going to get you the job at 50 years old.
We all know people that we went to school with, Bobby. We all know people we went to school with that went to Notre Dame that are not successful and they don't do well.
Tons of those people. That's every school. And Harvard too. That's every school.
And we know a lot of people that went to crappy schools that we would consider crappy that are very successful. So my point is, we're sometimes I think we just overweigh that. So like to E's point, which I agree with 100%. If you go to Oklahoma and you're a household name and you ball out, and let's say you blow your knee out your junior year, you can never play again. There are very successful companies. They have a very good network of people too. Every school's got rich alumni. And if you're the type of person that's going to utilize your network, and you're going to walk around and say, hey, my name is Mr. Bowen or whatever, and I want an opportunity to do this. I played here. Come this way. And he's going to start building his resume, and he's going to get to a point where he's going to be fine. I
would challenge both of you with this. That is true in year one, year two, maybe year three. People forget your name. They forget that you played. And while, yes, you're right, what you were able to do professionally matters in terms of pursuing opportunities now as you approach 50. I bet when you put that resume together, it still says Notre Dame, and that matters. And so every year, I've also been blessed enough to play at the other level in the NFL where some of them guys didn't care about the institution they went to. They cared about the stats. And now some of those guys are struggling. Yes, are there Notre Dame grads that are struggling? Absolutely. But what I'm saying is every year removed from football, they forget about you. What have you done for me lately? So you being a household name in 2023 does not mean you're going to be a household name in 2030. That's just the way football is.
I'm not talking about
the institution,
about network and boosters and all of that. Like, there's a lot of rich people that are going to put you in positions, powerful, influential, if you went to any of these schools. That's all. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with the point that
and a lot of those rich people, if you look, that's why they do the studies. They tell you where some of the wealth concentration is in terms of where you graduated from. So the sheer number of people that have that familiarity with me, Notre Dame, over other schools, gives me more opportunities. Let
me tell you why.
So then, if you're saying that Notre Dame versus Oklahoma is going to give you a lifetime value of more than $2 million, then he made the wrong decision.
I didn't say he made the wrong decision, and I'm not saying that Notre Dame over Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is a great school. Oklahoma is a great law school. What I'm saying is if you're agnostic as to whether or not that institution has a value beyond your immediate measurability, then you need better advice next to you. Because while you are absolutely right, Big Flo Show, what you have done professionally matters more than what school you went to. What school you went to is also a prominent part of your resume. And
absolutely. But here's my point, though. This is where I think things are a little bit swayed when it comes to admissions. So there's a high school that's right by my house, Bennett Academy, right? They're the number 1 or number 2 feeder to Notre Dame in the country. and they tout a 97%, 98% high school or college acceptance rate or something like that. And so I think those numbers are kind of BS. They're taking credit for something that's not them. And here's my point. You have to apply to get into Bennett. They only accept, let's call it 10 or 15% of applicants. I'm off, and I'm just using this for emphasis. So you go through there, and then you come out and you go to college and say, see, look, Bennett made you ready for college. And my argument is those 10 or 15% that they got accepted, whatever came in, no matter where that kid went to high school, he was going to college. You just weeded out all the people that aren't going to college and never let them come to your school. So you got quality in, quality out. Right. Notre Dame has like a 6% acceptance rate, right? Those people come out and they make a lot of money when they leave. Notre Dame is taking a lot of credit for that. But let's be honest. Those kids that went to Notre Dame, if they didn't go to Notre Dame, let's say they got into Notre Dame and they decided to go to Boston College or they decided to go to Oklahoma instead, that kid's still going to be successful. They're taking a guy who's a guy or a girl who has a launching pad for success because they were good. They were a good high school student. They came from a good family. They were enterprising, they did whatever, and they chose Notre Dame. And now Notre Dame's taking the credit for them at the end. And people say, "Ooh." But those people were going to be successful. They went to Oklahoma. They still would have been good.
But what you described to me,
who you were, you weren't a bum. And then although when I met you, you looked a little different. They cleaned you up a little bit. But it's not like you guys were a bum on a word to nowhere, and then they just transformed you and made you this great person. Is there anyone else that go at your company that works for Notre Dame? Nobody else in my company went to Notre Dame.
Yeah,
they all went to inferior schools, and they still work where I work.
My point is this: what you have just described is exactly why I think young men in this case, but young athletes especially, more broadly across the sports, why young men need someone advising them. Because what you just described, whether it be Harvard, Yale, Notre Dame, is the same thing that increases the likelihood that Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame on my resume is going to connect me to people that have been very successful. It's a filtering mechanism that Stanford, Northwestern, Notre Dame, Vanderbilt has that absolutely it increases the likelihood that connection is going to connect me to opportunity. And we can, I'm not, that man taking $2 million is that man's money. I can't spend it, so I can't judge it. But at the same time, I do think that we're getting to the Wild Wild West. And a lot of these people, young people, are going to be making decisions. Family encouraging them to make a $2 million is a different number, but making a monetary decision that is short-sighted. The $2 million, take the bread. But there are a lot of people that didn't get $2 million. That kid was the number one safety in the country. There are a lot of smaller numbers out there that people made financial decisions that were short-sighted.
$10,000 a year to go somewhere. He's not doing that. That's not life-changing money. I got that. I don't have $2 million for him, right? So there's a dollar amount with everything where you go, you chase the money and do whatever. And to me, you look at the long-term benefit of going to a great university versus the long-term benefit of going to one that's good but not great, and you figure that dollar amount out. $2 million to me sounds about right. You know what I mean? So,
but also, fair. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. Like even a school that's good, if you want to excel professionally in any industry and you were a prominent athlete at that school, you are going to be able to tap into like the spread between, I went to Harvard versus I went to, University of Miami and I was a starting cornerback is like potentially zero difference.
All right. Well, we will agree to disagree.
If you tap into the network, like
we're
get
saying,
your foot in the door.
And Miami's a tough comparison because Miami is its own private school, great education, great.
But I'm just talking about how it's compared brand wise from an academic standpoint.
Fair, but look, they break down the studies of where the concentration of power, influence, and money is.
But not based on athletes.
Athletes, yeah.
Fellas.
Actually, that is a good study. I would love to see the athletic, like, let's do that based off of the athletic people, because I think we give a lot of
if everybody was like y'all, and more specifically like you be in terms of how you maximize your academic opportunity with using sports, if everybody took that same approach at every school, I would say the variability would be very limited. Like
I agree with you.
There would not be the standard deviation would be small.
There, I agree with you, but I also am going into this knowing that 99.9% of the people that, not just at other schools, even at Notre Dame, that have the opportunity don't take full advantage of it because
Right,
that's just not the culture of collegiate athletics. And the only reason I took advantage of it is because there's a 5 foot tall woman who put me in a headlock who was an educator. Betty Brown was
And the
my
headlock
mother.
would be
I didn't
no
know.
less tight if you went to FIU. It would have been
Right.
no less tight. You would have still gone to law school. You would have still
Right.
got your MBA because she put that in you, and it was regardless. So I feel like Notre Dame is getting too much credit for B Brown, ESQ, aka the ball hawk, aka all that shit. All them AKAs, you'd have got that if you'd have went to an inferior school. No offense to FIU, because you came there to do that. Montrell Roll went to Florida State, which wasn't considered a thing. Dude is a Rhodes Scholar, he's a doctor, he's doing whatever. I don't give a shit where he went to school. He would have done the same exact thing. Doesn't matter.
Myron Rowe. You talking Myron Rowe?
Okay,
you
my
said
I was close enough.
intro, but
I said Montreal. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Rowe. He went there. He was a great student. Now that's an extreme case. But my point is,
absolutely.
But my point is, like, colleges and universities get too much credit for the success of their graduates because those people, they went to that school, but I take the same guys that came and did that. If I put them in another school, maybe there's a small variance of what they would have did. But if you are a driven, successful person, you have the right guidance. Now, I will tell you, some programs, and this is taking away the school aspect, but the sports aspect, they don't breed that. Like you talked about a university that I'm not going to call out on the air, where the kids go to the junior college when they go to that school and they transfer their credits in there. And that's a cultural thing where they're not letting them take advantage of any part of the school. That's something you want to run for the hills from. That's something that's going to hurt you. $2 million still, I figured out. But like you gotta, you gotta run from the hills for some programs like that because they're not giving the education first. So I look at more of the attitude of the head coach and the staff of how they're going to help you embrace the academics and the networking. But I think we all know where we come from. We're right and you're wrong, and that's okay. But you got the big hat.
Hey, I say this, man, because I didn't realize this was going to be such a lightning rod issue. I'm happy for every young man in this case, because we're talking about college football. But there are other sports that also had signing day yesterday. So I'm happy for every young person that got an opportunity to sign that letter of intent, go and take full advantage. And you're right. If you take full advantage, it doesn't matter what school you go to. But the odds are, and history is showing us that not a lot of people do it. But I encourage this generation or this particular class, go out and take full advantage. What we didn't talk about is Coach Prime and JSU. JSU still has the #1 HBCU class, and we saw some of the transfers that went there from Power 5 schools. Coach Prime got the a 4-star kid, number 74 overall wide receiver in the ESPN top 300 to come to Colorado. We shall see. Just in one statement, when we are faced with this debate at the barbershop of whether or not Deion was a blessing or a curse when it comes to HBCU football, whether or not Deion was right in pursuing his next opportunity, just give me your short answer. What are you leading with? What's your topic of conversation when it comes to Deion, JSU, HBCU, him leaving for Colorado, right? He's taking his son. I saw something in one of the podcasts. I think it was, I don't remember who the podcast was, but it talked about he's giving his son another opportunity. And so many black quarterbacks from HBCUs have had this cloud hanging over their head, whether or not they face the best competition. His son's going to get an opportunity to mitigate that conversation prior to it ever happening because he's going to play at a Power 5. Just your short answer, man. Are we saying that all in all, 2 thumbs up is a success, or are we a part of the chorus that said that Deion was a vulture and Deion was just about Deion? Because the conversation continues, and while we're not going to spend too much time on it here today, because I do want to get to the crazy week in NFL before we get out of here, what say you, man? Because it's been a growing debate in barbershops across the country. Black folk been arguing whether or not Deion, when it's all said and done, was all about Deion, or was he a blessing to HBCUs? I'll start with you on this one, ETP.
So I think both can be true at some varying degree. I think that he definitely, we've talked about it on the show weeks past. His impact has been amazing in terms of the progress that he's made, the money he brought into the school, raising the level of expectation and performance of the football program, all of that. I think one thing that I'm conflicted about is just the way that, like, kind of his quote unquote exit interview, he's spending a lot of time talking about the problems within the school that were bigger than football, that essentially are validating and justifying his decision to move on from the schools. And like, that part doesn't sit that
and
well
across
with me.
HBCUs. He talked about JSU, but he made it broader. He said
Right.
that these
Yeah,
are
like they're all right because of
Yep.
the financial status. But I just mean specific to JSU. But yeah, I mean, just the idea of on your way out saying, and given the history of, race in America, the economic disparity, all of the things that we know about the history of the United States from the inception of the Declaration of Independence to today, for him to be walking out the door and saying that these programs and these universities and these establishments are inferior, and really talking about the issues. Like, one, it's, in some ways, it's like, I don't want to say it's airing dirty laundry, but it's just like, don't necessarily compare the two or relate the two. If you saw that there was a better opportunity, why not just leave it at that? This was the best opportunity for my professional career. This was the best opportunity for my coaches, for the players that I'm taking with me. This was an opportunity, versus saying, I wanted to give this opportunity to this university, to this network of universities,
Right.
but they just don't have the resources. They are corrupt. They are, like, all of the naysaying and the negativity. I just don't think, I'm not saying it's true or untrue. I just don't think it was necessary, and I think it was untimely.
Why,
and I think
why do that? Right.
And I think it starts to, like, it slings mud on your way out, where it's just like, it doesn't have any positive impact.
He did it. I think the interview you're talking about, when he said he had offered to hire an auditing firm, the interview that you're talking about, I think it was more in response to people saying that if he could have stayed there and done what he seemed to be on a path towards doing in the JSU football program, how it could have manifested itself into this transformational thing. And he was saying that football is just such a small slice of the impact, and there's so many other things going on that campus that it's going to be problematic for not just him, any coach just within the football program, to have the transformational change that it seemed like our community, the Black community, was saying that he was this close to achieving. That's what he was saying. I'm not supporting.
No, but I mean, but he also
That's
said that, like, so that was with the podcast. I mean, but he also, like, this is multiple interviews that he did where he was basically saying, like, he was alluding to the deficiencies, which are valid, right? But to use that as, y'all didn't have what I needed in order to do my job, good luck. I'm not saying any of it's wrong. I'm not even necessarily saying that. But
why say it publicly?
But why use that? Why use the platform of you moving on to something else and leaving this program that people, for a specific reason, have a feeling about, of negativity, of, you left us, you could have taken, like, we were looking to you to help to be a part of helping to solve these problems, and then you turn around and say, it's because you all have those problems that I'm out.
Right. Fair. Big Flow Show. I mean, what's the narrative? You go into a barber shop, and first they're gonna be like, "What you doing here?"
I've been in the barbershop more recently than y'all. I was there yesterday, my friend.
My bad.
Like, are you a cop? You a fan? You undercover?
They let the ops
Hey,
in.
smoke this.
They let the ops in.
Hey, smoke this. Brush your hair with this.
This dude that don't want a haircut came in for a haircut.
But after all of that dies down,
I'm going to Jackson State. I like that treatment. I get this treat in this place.
The conversation starts about Dion, man. What angle do you take? Because
let me say this.
It has been a very controversial conversation, man. Coach Prime is now at the heart of most debates. At the black table, I shouldn't say the black table, but PWIs is probably, unfortunately, that was kind of the black table lunchroom. But at the spades table in in family settings now. They're talking about Prime at barbershops in respective communities. They're talking about Coach Prime. And what angle would you take? What is his overall? I don't want to say what's his legacy, because I mean he's still living it, right? He's still doing it. But what angle would you take when it comes to the debate that has become Coach Prime, and whether or not what he did at JSU and for HBCUs was positive, or was it selfish?
So let me start off, like, because you were asking, the way you were asking the first time is kind of like, looking back, like what do we think? Is this positive or negative altogether? First, I've been as time goes on, I feel like my position has been a little bit proven more wrong than right. I didn't think Coach Prime would be able to go do a great job of recruiting at a PWI, just because I felt like I assumed his angle was, hey, come help the HBCUs out, whatever. You're getting people to sacrifice, and if you just go to any run of the mill. Now, when he was looking at non-power fives, I felt more strongly about this. But you're looking at just kind of your run of the mill program. What's your real draw? Like, he's even saying now, hey, it's hard because it's cold over here, and I'm trying to get these guys from the heat. He's realizing some challenges, but he's doing a little bit better. His recruiting class didn't register a heartbeat on the rating scale, but he did come in late. But he did get some notable recruits, and he's getting some notable transfers. And I'm seeing that he's putting in some work. He got a good staff together. I believe that he's gonna do something at Colorado. I don't know that he's going to be winning a Pac-12 championship, but I think he's going to do something. They're not going to be as bad as they've been. So that being said, I think JSU is doing a little bit better than I thought too. They're still getting some recruits.
Yeah, they lost and transfers.
Yeah, and some transfers. So I'm happy to see that. So lends itself to saying that maybe he left it better than he got it. I'm going to agree with ETP on this. I don't know what purpose he's serving by saying the why he left when it comes to this. First of all, when you say, and I've mentioned this before, you're telling all the black quarterbacks out there that want to go to HBCUs, I tried it, and even though my son was getting talked about for the Heisman, even though my son was playing on TV, even though my son led them to an 11-1 season, even though my son was this and people know his name, I still felt like he couldn't achieve the next level unless I went to a PWI. Now, his actions say that, but he said it with verbally. And I think that's a slap in the face and a gut punch to HBCUs. I think you left and you're taking all these players with you. Not that, I mean, of course you're going to try to see whatever, but you say, hey, I moved up and I didn't forget y'all. I'm getting y'all out of that too. You're saying, hey, I feel like there's some fraud going on in the schools, but I don't know if it's fraud, but why is everybody broke? I think you really are painting the situation in a negative way, that if I have an opportunity to, now, Charles Barkley donated $1 million, fantastic. But if you're going to try to work on kind of some solution and try to get more money while you're gone, still cool. But just to point out problems that most of us already knew that were going on at HBCUs, and kind of saying, I tried it, I gave it a shot. And even though unprecedented support and unprecedented access to media, unprecedented hype and buzz in the HBCU community that I brought there, that wasn't good enough. I still felt like I had to get out of here because it's trash. That's kind of what I feel like he's saying. And I don't see the purpose that he's serving for that, to do it if you're trying to leave it better than you had it. Because in the same breath, he's saying, what's the guy's name? TC or something like that is going to do great. He's going to get a good class.
The new coach, right?
But man, you're not helping him get a good class when you tell him all this stuff. You're not helping him do that when you tell him you're making all these statements out there that seem like it's trash over there. So I don't think you have to sugarcoat anything, but I don't know what purpose that's serving. But all in all, I've been wrong and things are shifting. The impact that Deion had over there with the money, $50 million to the city, that $50 million dollars got there. Yeah, you're not going to get it year in and year out, but that $50 million helped something, unless someone put in their pocket. Somebody did something with that money. The stadium stuff, the bowl games, the ESPN contract, although it was very small, it still was, $120 million over 10 years.
Right.
It's more than it was before he got there. So I'd still say that there's some positive, but he might need to just start talking Colorado.
Dial back the rhetoric a little bit. I say, what's up, my man PJ, man? I love when any of our kids come and watch. PJ is an amazing 9U player.
I gotta watch my mouth, PJ. I'm sorry, I was just playing when I said all those words.
Yeah. I think he's been around you potty mouth coaches before, so he understands. Not this coach, but I do love when young men come in. I forget they are off school today. So what's up, PJ? Want to give him a shout out. My stance would be a little different. To be honest, I think what Deion was able to do there at JSU, and then just because of the impact what he did at JSU, more broadly with HBCUs, and bring a lot of attention to the excellence that has been there forever, but bring attention to it. I think the same thing is true with what he's trying to do on his way out. He's bringing attention to issues that if you don't solve them, then they just become bigger issues. And while maybe it'd be better to do it behind closed doors, I think that it is challenging the elite group of alum that have come from those respective institutions to donate more. It is challenging those alum to make sure that there are ongoing audits and to pay particular attention to something that does seem, from a mathematical standpoint, unbelievable. Like, why are we all broke? And so I don't know if there's a perfect way to solve it, and I don't think that what he did at JSU is necessarily the solution, but I do think that he gave JSU and other HBCUs a sort of a roadmap and how to market your own school, how to do it on a budget that makes sense, that doesn't necessarily require you to compete with a PWI, how to get transfers, to think of JSU and other HBCUs as the perfect place to be, and how to make sure that you do it in a way that is competitive and attractive to outlets like ESPN. So I think that he provided a roadmap that other schools and other coaches can use. And I think that's what he's trying to do with calling out some of the issues when it comes to potential audit situations. So that would be my stance if ever asked in a barbershop. Let's end here, man, because we did have the NBA Hall of Fame nominees that were announced. So make sure that you pay attention to that. Chauncey Billups is one of the names on there. Pay attention to that. We do have the Christmas games, but I wanted to leave with this crazy NFL week. There was a crazy NFL week that we'll leave here. Let's make it a quick segment. But you had Jeff Saturday on a particular Saturday went out and decided to be the head coach of the team that is now a part of history for all the wrong reasons. They gave up the largest comeback, 33-0 at halftime. Jeff Saturday, in his infinite wisdom and all his coaching experience, was at the helm. Matt Ryan was the quarterback, who was also the quarterback with the debacle in the Super Bowl, one of the two asterisks next to the Patriots Super Bowl championships, when Atlanta gave the game away 28-3. They lost a math test on national television. It happened again, this time with Matt Ryan at quarterback, Jeff Saturday as a coach, 33-0 at halftime. How do you lose that game? You got to ask the Colts. You got to ask Jeff Saturday. You got to ask Matt Ryan. But you would think that would be the highlight or the low light or just the attention seeking thing of the week. No. In a tie game, 3 seconds left. The Patriots. At one point, it looked like a Tecmo Bowl situation where the receiver is going the opposite direction, and then he throws the ball. A lateral intended for Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones. That goes to the Raiders.
Because he thought Matt Jones was going to take it to the house. He was open. So
what?
So what? So was I.
Right.
I was open too. Why you didn't throw it to me?
But the stiff arm that Matt Jones had to endure, right? Like, there's a lot there. And then the Raiders win in unbelievable fashion. The Patriots give the game away. And while that should have been the worst of the worst, it wasn't. There was a brother who decided to go out there to Las Vegas and to watch the game. And this brother had to endure watching that blasphemy of a play. But that wasn't the only thing that he had to endure. ETP, can you show us this footage of this brother and his resilience? This goes out to all brothers that had to deal with this type of craziness, that have had to take the higher road, turn the other cheek, that have had to, when they go low, we go high, to quote our girl, Mrs. Michelle Obama. This young man endured it all. And in doing so, I think we all looked at it and thinking of the entitlement that this white woman had yelling in his face. The fact that he couldn't really respond because he probably knew that at the end of the day, if the cops came over, he would be the one leaving in handcuffs. Can you play it, ETP or no?
So this was right after the touchdown.
Right after the touchdown. Look at his resilience. And I know his name is in the article. It's been circulated. Bob Kraft has decided to fly him out. He went viral for his unbelievable resolve in this moment. I mean, she all in his face. I mean, she even, a slight little touch. The touch would have got that part right there would have got me. And I've seen so many parts of this video where I've been like, I would have slapped her here. I would have headlocked her here. I would have checked her balance and pushed her forward here. He did none of that. Look at it. Here's to you, black man, with the most amazing resolve and patience ever known to mankind. I don't know the brother's name, man, but
Jerry Edmond.
What's his name?
You know what though? This comes from, I can tell what he's going to be doing tomorrow night. He's definitely going to a spade or bidwist tournament, because when you play spades or bidwist, this is very common behavior for somebody who beats you. Like, he's had a Boston served on him before, and he knows, you know what? He just took his L. This is cultural. He's been there before. We've all had people run their mouth like that, and you just have to take your L. He just saw his team that he came out there to see, bought the jersey, paid all the money. He just watched a dude try to reverse it on a tie game to who? Matt Jones. So he can run it back for 6, right? He's taking his L. I appreciate it.
Dumbest play. Is it the dumbest play ever in NFL history? There's been some dumb ones.
The harder thing about all of this is it was a dumb play call. There were 2 dumb decisions. It was 2 laterals, and ultimately, if they wanted to go to overtime, they could have tried the Hail Mary. They could have just took a knee. Like, what? Why would they even run? Why would they run a run play? And then the executive decision to think that you're going to run a, Stanford band playing, lateral play.
There was no
is
executives
crazy.
involved in that decision.
There was it was like they just used rocks and sticks, and that's how they decided what they were going to run.
What's the guy's name that follows LeBron around all the time? Take his shirt off with all the things. J.R. Smith. It reminded me of that, where he didn't understand what they were in the game. Like, dude, we were losing.
Reduce J.R. Smith to a guy who follows LeBron around all the time and takes his shirt off.
J.R. Smith. That's your
legacy.
That was
McDonald's All-American. I think
that's what it's going to say on your tombstone.
He's an all-star.
I follow LeBron James.
He's a champion.
He's a superstar. He's like as good as Andrew Wiggins.
Oh, let's not do that.
He's that good. He's that good. He's that good. See, you going too far.
Whoa. But you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like, everyone's like, what are you doing, man? Like, go up with the shot. Like, dude, did you not realize that we were tied? That game that play was perfect if you were down by 1. Perfect.
Dumbest play maybe ever in the NFL. And we'll end National Signing, this episode of National Signing, with that. We talked about the World Cup and everyone representing and supporting its nation. We talked about National Signing Day that turned into a very provocative conversation. So please make sure you check that out. And I'll leave you with this as we start every week. Please like, please comment, please share. Please tag a friend. Please tag a foe or tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe to both our podcast and to our YouTube channel. This has been a great episode of the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. We had the whole crew in the building, the Big Flow Show coming to you from the Middle Coast, and we had ETP coming to you by way of Boston, but here in the New York City area. I am your boy, B Brown ESQ, aka the Ball Hawk, aka the Mouth of the South, aka Mr. Excessive Celebration, aka Brazy. Asking you kindly again, it will cost you nothing to like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, or to subscribe. While it costs you nothing, it does wonders for us. You allow us to continue to expand and give provocative content. We do it one way, rough, rugged, and raw. It's where sports, business, and entertainment collide. It is the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. This was the National Signing episode, and we is out. Peace.